Welcome to another live episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back. And today we got a special guest joining us, man, my guy Josh Harper, all-time Fresno State great legend. We're going to talk about some of his stats and numbers that he put up there. A certain guy he played with, Davante Adams, him being compared to Brandon Ayuk. What does that look like? Where is Ayuk at right now? And of course, we're going to dive into the quarterback battle. I keep looking up here at my camera, but right here, the quarterback battle between the backups and Brock Purdy. What does it look like? What did it look like today at practice? And maybe a little bit of Jimmy Garoppolo. You know what I'm saying? A little Jimmy G. Hope everybody's doing good. Make sure that y'all
like and subscribe this video.
Nice. All right. Of course, this show is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. And right now, Underdog Fantasy, man, is starting to take off. I actually have a fantasy football draft right now. Maybe at some point I'll put the link in the chat. It's not full. I got a slow draft that's full, and I got another draft that's normal speed. I think I got like 5 or 6 open spots. So if you are someone that's interested in fantasy football, if you like the best ball format, the Underdog Fantasy is for you. Download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com, and on your initial deposit, when you use promo code Crocky, that's promo code Crocky, CROCKY, they'll double your deposit up to $100. So if you put $50 in there, they'll add 50. You got $100 to play with. If you put 100, they'll add 100. You got 200 to play with. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of fun. If you add, let's say you want to deposit 300, they're still only going to deposit an extra $100. All right. So Underdog Fantasy, download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code Crocky. Let's go. All right, man. With no further ado, man, I told you I had a special guest coming on today. I need to have more guests like this all the time. I'm gonna start bringing on Josh more often. I got my guy Josh. I got my guy Jasper Rose. I need to have Jasper on here. He texts me. I need to text him back. My bad, Jasper. All right, but here we go, man. I got my guy Josh coming on. Josh, how you doing, bro?
What's up, Crock? I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, Josh is also a Las Vegas resident. So first of all, I went and I was like, man, I know Josh was an all-time Fresno State great. So I had to go look up the numbers real quick. 7th all-time in receiving yards history at Fresno State. And there have been some good Fresno State receivers. I actually lived in Fresno my freshman year at high school. And that's when they were like at the peak of their powers. This is like 2001. You had Derek Carr, you had Bernard Berry, and you had Rodney Wright. Like these guys were like, they were just going crazy. Yeah, Dante Marshall on defense. So those were the great years of Fresno State. But they had this run of terrific receivers between you. They had Davante Adams, they had Jalen Saunders, they had Isaiah Burst, a bunch of guys that represent the 209. I know you're from the Bay, but then you still represent the 209 as well. And it was dope kind of watching y'all. And I always bring up that story about how so back in the day, we used to do the one-on-ones, right? We go out there on a Saturday morning, and I mean, literally everybody be out there for hours. And it would be like the best guys and, just most talented guys from around the 209. Sure. And people would come out. I mean, we'd have, I feel like 30 dudes out there, and we do one-on-ones for hours. And the Fresno State boys showed up, Josh, Jalen Saunders. We had Brandon Cooks out there. I mean, just the big dogs. And I was like, I remember going up to you, Isaiah, and Jalen after. I'm like, man, y'all got it. I think that was my rookie year in the Arena Football League. And I remember like some of the receivers I went up against there played at some big-time universities, Florida and stuff like that. I'm like, man, these little dudes out here from Fresno State like better than these Florida dudes. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's up. But I said 7th all-time in the history receiving yards at Fresno State, 3rd all-time in receptions. And you just got past. So you're 3rd now. Number 1 is Keyshawn Johnson. He just passed it a few years ago. And then the Davante Adams, and then that's you. So that's kind of a great accomplishment. And I want to kind of start there with Davante Adams because you were there. You got to play with him. I just saw Richard Sherman doing an interview, and he compared, or not him, but James Jones had brought up the comparison between Brandon Ayuk and Davante Adams. You play with Davante Adams. You get to watch Davante Adams now, weekly while he's out there in Las Vegas. What are you seeing right now from Brandon Ayuk's game where you're like, okay, he's either right there with Davante Adams or he might be trending in the right direction?
So I wouldn't say he's with Davante Adams. He's definitely trending in the right direction. Their mental, I would say their mental makeup. So what separates Davante is his mental. Can't nobody guard me. right?
Yeah.
And I feel like Ayuk is getting there. I haven't really seen like a lot of his camp stuff, but from like the reports and stuff like that, it looks like he's being a dog out there, and he's like saying like nobody can guard me, right? So that's what I would say. Mainly is their mental makeup.
So watching them today, you got a chance to watch. And I know it's kind of bird's eye view. I heard they had everybody just way back. The reporters, they're talking about they need a telescope to see practice and everything. But was there anything from Ayuk's game or Debo's that you saw that maybe kind of stood out, or you're like, oh man? Because I know I always pay attention to like these just little things. I'll see something and it's like, man, I like how he worked the top of that route right there. Like, man, that was really good. Like, that was different. Or just maybe a little subtleness to his game. I see a lot of that with Davante Adams. So everybody sees Davante Adams, him winning vertically. And I always realize, I'm like, for a guy that runs 4, 5, 7 at in the 40-yard dash at the combine, he plays faster, but he also understands like all these little nuances to freeing himself up and getting open downfield where he's working like a half step. And by the time the DB reacts, like he's going in and boom, quarterback drops it in vertically down the field. The way he runs his routes, the way he kind of hits guys at the top of routes. So was there anything from your view you were able to see at all from Ayuk today?
Yeah, so like you said, it was a bird's eye view out there. We definitely needed some binoculars, but from what I was able to see, like he's very subtle in his movements. Everything looks the same. So once he gets off the line of scrimmage, which he does really good, and I saw that today. Once he gets off the line of scrimmage, he's upfield, right? And then he's breaking off left or right. You don't know which way he's going. His body is straight forward. He's dropping his hips and he's getting in and out of his breaks. And that's what I really like about Ayuk, and I could see the similarities between him and Davante. Actually, we had that conversation when Ayuk came out of the draft, and he agreed. Now you got to go out in the NFL and show that, right? Davante showed it, and he's showing it again every year that he's one of the best receivers. But Ayuk has that ability. I was just telling a couple people the other day that Ayuk has a chance to be a top 10 receiver in the NFL, and I think he would be already if he was in a different offense and didn't have all these weapons. But yeah, like I would say his subtleness, him getting off the line of scrimmage, like again, he does very well, and then just keeping everything straight. You don't know if he's going on a streak or if he's breaking out in a curl route, comeback. He makes everything look the same.
Awesome stuff there. So more receiving news from the 49ers. Ray McCloud, he broke his wrist, and he's going to be out 8 weeks. If I had to guess right now, again, because you haven't even started preseason, you got 3 preseason games, you have a week off, and then you have the season. So it sounds like he's going to miss roughly 4 games to start the season. So somebody got to fill in. And I think when people hear like Ray McCloud, it's like, oh man, he's replaceable. But it's like, this is a dude that was top 3 in punt return average per return, top 10 in kickoff return average per return, and then gave you a little something offensively, average over 17 yards per reception last year. That was the best in his career, but they used him in a very specific role. He didn't have to be an every down guy like Ayuk or Debo. He wasn't going to be in there as much as Juwan Jennings. But when you forget about those guys, or when you focus on those guys and you're focused on Christian McCaffrey, it was Ayuk once or twice, or excuse me, it was McCloud once or twice a game that was going to hit you for a nice gain or move the sticks. And again, it wasn't super consistent, but you see they kind of utilize him in that way. I remember watching him against the Washington Commanders, and he had a 75-yard end around for a touchdown that really sparked the offense because it was kind of sputtering in that first half. So I think he'll be a little bit more missed than people are thinking right now, but they're going to have to fill that role somehow, some way. And I think it starts first with a guy that has more value who can be potentially a return man, or are they trying to say, you know what, we're going to try to utilize 2 guys to fill one guy's role who did 2 different things. So off the top of my head, I would probably say Ronnie Bell might start to get a little bit more love because he's not only a receiver, does some good things, has sure hands, but he's also a return guy as well. Punt return, kick return. He's been returning punts and kicks in practice so far. But then there's a veteran like Chris Conley, who I think he's shown up as of late. He's been active. You got Snead. He's been active. So out of those 3 guys, do you think they try to fill one guy's role who did two different things with one more guy, or do you think maybe there's a chance for one of the veterans and a rookie like Ronnie Bell or Danny Gray, who might be stepping up now?
Yeah, so I think with how stacked the roster is, Crock, I don't think they could add. I don't think they can fill that void with two receivers.
Yeah.
I think the roster is too stacked, and there's going to be other positions that need to be on that 53 roster. So I think Ronnie Bell, he has the most experience out of the three guys that with return and kick return ability. So I think Ronnie Bell gets the first crack. And it's up to him to lose that. I mean, it's going to take some drop punts in preseason game, some fumbles at kick return, something like that for him not to get that job. I think they feel like they could kind of hold off for 4 weeks if he's just an average return man. Just take care of the ball. That's all they're going to ask for Ronnie Bell to do is take care of the ball, no turnovers. But I think Ronnie Bell has the edge on that to start the season.
Yeah, and I've kind of referenced Chris Conley and the kind of camp that he has had lately. He's coming on strong. And it's cool. I think the 49ers, he's kind of like the forgotten guy between him and Snead, because Snead's starting to come on strong as well. But one thing that happens with some of these guys that are veterans, and it's tough for them, if, let's say, Chris Conley and Snead, we'll just use those guys as an example right now. If cuts come and the 49ers waive Ronnie Bell and try to get him back on practice squad, or waive Danny Gray, try to get him back on practice squad, and they keep Conley and Snead, or Conley or Snead, that contract for those guys becomes guaranteed at that moment for the entire season. So guys try to manipulate the books a little bit, try to cook the books a little bit by, all right, we got Conley, we got Snead. We like both of these guys. Mm-hmm. Can we end up bringing back one of these guys? So maybe they waive both of them and see which guy they could potentially bring back for either practice squad or on the active roster, because I don't see them kind of exposing one of their young guys who would have to clear waivers. And that's kind of the difference between that. So I would expect them to maybe go young. All right, so you got your veteran guys with Debo, Ayuk, and Jennings. And then obviously probably McCloud's going to start off on the pup list. And then you have your younger guys, right, with those two receivers that we just mentioned, Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray. Maybe they just stick with those guys and then try to bring back one of Conley or Snead. So that would kind of be mine.
I like that too. I mean, Conley has, out of Conley and Snead, out of really the young dudes too, he's had the best camp. From what I've seen out there today, and then from what I've been reading on when they practice in Santa Clara, Conley's had the best camp out of the Sneads, and maybe not Danny Gray. Danny Gray has he's come on strong.
He's started to come on a little bit, yeah.
I need him to produce. I think he's a receiver that the Niners need. He doesn't have, nobody has that speed at that position that Gray has, right? So we need Gray to come along and be that guy that they drafted him for. And I think if they try to sneak him onto the practice squad, I don't think they'll make it.
Right.
That's because of the speed.
So you spent some time with the Raiders, your rookie year in the NFL, and being a receiver, kind of going in, seeing what that's like. What was the biggest difference between going from college and a college system where you excelled at Fresno State to the NFL and what they're asking you, just so we can kind of get an idea of what a guy like Danny Gray might be going through right now?
So you don't have that time to get acclimated to the NFL. Well, Danny Gray may, but the later round guys, you don't have the time to get acclimated. You have to go in and show what you got right off the top, right off the bat. So I would say that the speed of the game, you have to get used to, the practices of the NFL, how to practice in the NFL. You can't take any periods off. They're tracking everything down. It's practice, but practice is more important than the games in the NFL. So that's what I'll say, the speed of the game and learning how to practice and not really, you have no time to get acclimated. You have to come out ready to go. They're not waiting for nobody.
Right. And luckily for me, I was coming from the Arena League to the NFL. So I was able to report with the veterans. So I kind of got to ease in with OTAs and everything like that. And, you have a certain part of the OTAs where you can't, use a ball, or whatever. So, we're in the weight room, we're on the field, we're doing walkthroughs, things like that. Then we can do some DB drills, catching the ball. But as far as like things kind of starting to move fast and having to understand like coverages, things like that, luckily for me, I was able to kind of get acclimated a little bit, and that kind of helped me last as long as I did.
Right.
But for some of the other guys who were maybe undrafted rookies, and you got to come in and right away, it's like boom, you're practicing, you got mini camps, you got all these things. It's like, and it's a lot, especially for receivers, because all my buddies that were receivers, they were holding, like, I see them walking around with flashcards. My guy Joe Collins, like, I talked to Joe, and I always talk to some of these people about this between like offense and defense in the NFL. It's almost like you're on two separate teams because you don't really interact with the other side as much. But somehow, some way, my guy Joe Collins, he knew my guy Derek Graves, so we became like cool. You know what I'm saying? We'd hang out outside of practice and everything. But I always see him with these flashcards, and he's like studying nonstop. And I'm like, man, I can never play receiver because it's so much that they put on you. And then they talk about Kyle Shanahan's offense, which is even more difficult for receivers with just the preciseness of it. Do you think that there's a difference in? And again, I know you it's not like you were with Kyle Shanahan, but just going from college and the way you had to run routes and things like that to the NFL, where now there's a lot of different side adjustments. There's a lot of different, okay, if it's too high, if it's, single high, if it's this, I have to change my route to this. Was there a difference in that from you playing at Fresno State to you being with the Oakland Raiders at the time?
Huge difference. So, in college, it's, you gotta slant, and you gotta slant no matter what, or you gotta must go outside. You gotta must go outside no matter what. The only thing different that we had in college, like cover two, it's an adjustment. You gotta go outside the cover two corner, the cloud corner. In the NFL, it's so many different side adjustments. You have to see what coverage they're in. If they're in man, make sure you do this route. If they're in cover two, do this route. They have option routes, choice routes, and different versions of that. It's just so, like, me coming from Fresno State, our offense was so basic, right? And then I had a chance to be in camp with the Raiders, but I also had a chance to actually coach under John Gruden. So it was like the whole system of the NFL is drastically different than what you see in college, and you just have to know much more. You have to actually look and see what the defense is doing as a receiver. That makes it 10 times harder.
Ooh, especially since there's a lot of like late movements, late adjustments, and that's a difference too. Because college, you're out there and it's like, okay, they're just gonna line up in quarters. Cool. Okay, I know exactly my route. I know how to run this route versus quarters. But NFL, a lot of late movement. They switch things up a lot. It'll look like one thing, and then you got these veterans who are smart, and the game is already slowed down for them, so they know how to kind of manipulate how you run your route and things like that. So I know that's probably.
Then you got the hot route. If the dude blitzes, you got to know what route to run. It's not always just a look now. It might be if this guy blitz, you have an out route. So it's tough.
And that kind of got the play Jimmy Garoppolo. And we'll get to Jimmy Garoppolo right now, but that was one of the reasons why Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt.
Really?
So what happened was against the Miami Dolphins, Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey were both in the backfield with Jimmy Garoppolo, and they had to run their route since there was a blitz on. They had to run it as a hot. Christian McCaffrey did, but Deebo didn't. And Deebo, because of the hot, that's where Jimmy looked first. If Jimmy would look to the right, he'd have been good and just hit McCaffrey. But he looked at Deebo, and Deebo's running his route like he's not hot, and that's when Jimmy had to eat it. Then he tried to, scramble out. Then boom, he broke his foot. So
and if Jimmy doesn't get hurt, that the whole quarterback situation looks a bit different. If he doesn't get hurt,
it would. Now Jimmy did well in practice today. So I know a lot of 49er fans were clamoring that, like, hey, what does it look like? What does Jimmy look like as a Raider? So kind of, what did you see from Jimmy Garoppolo? Did he look comfortable in McDaniel's offense?
So no, Jimmy looked like Jimmy. He looked comfortable. He was way more decisive. Because I went to the family day practice last week. It was tough. Y'all read about it. Y'all read about it.
Yeah.
But today he looked way more decisive. He was hitting all his reads. He was getting quick release, still quick. Oh my goodness, he still has a quick release. But I think this offense is what is going to make Jimmy G thrive. Like, this is what he needs. This is the type of offense that, that Jimmy needs and what McDaniels is looking for. So he looked good today. I'm not even gonna lie. He looked pretty good today. Not saying he's gonna be a quarterback that's gonna take them to, a Super Bowl or anything, but what they expect from Jimmy, I think I saw it today.
And I've told a lot of Raider fans, like, if he's your quarterback, y'all might not be great, but you're gonna always have a chance. You can always have a chance to win games. I'd expect the Raiders to win 9-10 games. You might not be this great team. It's going to be hard to keep up with the likes of Mahomes, and we'll see if Justin Herbert can really take that next step. He's doing the part, like he's viewed as like, oh, he's that guy. But now it's like, okay, you got to be that week in, week out, and maybe some things get a little bit better around Justin Herbert. But AFC West. Ain't no slouches. And you don't know too is, with Sean Payton taking over in Denver, what is Denver going to look like? They were bums last year. So it's like, that was the worst Russell Wilson we had ever seen. So now, there's a chance that Jimmy's viewed as the worst quarterback in the AFC West. Do they lean more on Jacobs? And we know he got his contract stuff going on, but that's going to be something very interesting to see. Let's start talking about the 49ers quarterbacks, because I know a lot of people want to talk about that. We got a super chat. I will get to that. But first, Brock Purdy. Right now, like, he's the guy. 49ers are going all in on Brock, and it's like, all right, you played at this certain level. I have my thoughts on how he played last year, and to me, it felt like for somebody coming in as a rookie, like, bro, that's amazing. Like, to come in as a rookie to take on that type of role. Obviously, there weren't like these high expectations for your third quarterback coming in, but then he exceeded anything that I probably assume anyone had for him. It's like, man, you're playing very well. When I break down everything, I see a lot of good things that he does. And I also notice, man, he kind of puts the ball in harm's way a little bit. Man, it looks like he benefits a lot from, having some of these weapons, and you can't take those guys away from him. But if it's not as clean and wide open as it was a lot last year, with the number one defense that takes some pressure off of you offensively, what does it look like? And I want to see if he kind of settle in, take that next step mentally, stop putting the ball in harm's way as much. Sounds like he threw another pick today, and he's put the ball in harm's way a lot throughout camp. Now, we also have to make sure that we know this is a guy who did not have a true offseason. He didn't have he wasn't afforded the same offseason as a Trey Lance, as a Sam Darnold, as I would say Jimmy Garoppolo, but he was kind of out too with injuries. But, the path to getting the training camp and being that guy is a little different. So he might just be a little bit further back in the sense of getting back comfortable. But what were some of the things that you saw from him today that you were like, oh man, like, that's great. That's why that he's the guy? Or, okay, that these things look a little rough. Because I saw you saying 7-on-7, it's starting off a little rough for Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and 7-on-7, it started off pretty rough. But like you said, he was putting the ball in harm's way today, and I was thinking, okay, he's going against the Niners defense like earlier in camp. Is this why he's throwing the picks? We come here today, and he throws another pick, but then he does make those plays where he gets it out. He has a quick release too. To me, he had a quick release today, and he'll get it across the middle. He can throw the ball over the middle. I didn't see him throw it outside the numbers or anything outside. All his good throws were over the middle. If he wasn't throwing over the middle, it was a check down. The time he tries to throw it outside the numbers, it was a pick on the sideline of the Raiders. But yeah, like, I don't really know what to expect from Purdy. I know he's coming off the injury, so are we giving him a grace period? But if I had to, put my 2 cents to it, like, I think there shouldn't be a quarterback competition because of what he did last year. But like you said, once you break it down, like, it was some throws last year that were drop kicks. But then there was also some things that he was doing. You're like, wow, that was crazy. I can't believe he made that throw, or how he got rid of that pass rush and things like that. So I don't know. I think this camp is showing what we saw in the season. Just he wasn't expected to do this. So I think it's some ups and downs that we're seeing from Purdy. And I don't know. Is he still hurt? Is he feeling the elbow? I don't know.
So we'll circle back to him. We'll get to some of the other quarterbacks, and we did have a question here with Trey Lance. So we'll talk about this question first, and then some of the things that you saw actually, let's start with the fumble snaps
Okay.
because I saw you report like, oh, fumble snap from Trey Lance. Oh, another fumble snap by Trey Lance. And I try to use my like common sense on some of these things. And I don't know if it's common sense or am I making excuses for him, right? And I'm trying to differentiate the two. Like, which one is it, Crock? Are you making excuses or is it common sense? When you're going with the 2s and 3s, I'll just assume like some of these guys that you're playing with aren't as good. So naturally, some of the things, whether it might be a snap or some drop balls or things like that, like, well, it's more prone to happen when you're practicing with these guys, so it's a little bit more understandable. But from your thoughts, just seeing a fumbled snap, what would you equate that to? Because it happened twice, and it has happened once or twice in the practices I was at as well in Santa Clara.
So from where I was, it did look like, so usually when it's a fumble snap, it's the center and the quarterback. They take that to fall on both of them. So, but on this one, it looked like Trey Lance got the snap but kind of fumbled it coming out. So that's what I saw. It looked like that, and maybe he's not used to being with that center. I don't know who was at center, but that's what I saw. And then the very next play, it was like a false start, and then Shanahan pulled him. So I don't know. I mean, that makes me feel like it was on Trey, but because he pulled him, he didn't even get a chance to run a play in that period. So I was like, oh, you just pulling him out like that. So,
yeah.
So
then you did talk about how, like, when he finally did get a chance to throw, he threw a strike, boom, and you kind of noted the completion. So we do have a question here from the Gold Rush 561. Appreciate the contribution. He says, during Lance's reps, did you notice any vocal leadership or him trying to show command of the offense, or was there any type of like kind of smoothness? And again, I did note that sometimes when you're going with other guys that might not be around, it's a little bit more difficult. But what did you see, just kind of what it looked like from him? Because I know, this is kind of your time where it's like, all right, Trey Lance, I watched him last year, see some areas he needs to grow. Did you see anything that led you to believe that he's maybe taking steps in the right direction, or you're like, looks like same old Trey Lance?
No, so he like throwing the ball noticeably. He's way more accurate. There was times where I was watching in preseason where I'm like, oh, that don't look too good. But today I didn't see any balls thrown where I was just like, okay, this dude, he don't got it. The only thing I would say, just to answer the Gold Rush's question, like, I don't really see any like vocal leadership from Trey, or like a command of the offense. I feel like he's just out there. When Purdy's out there, you get a feel like, okay, he has a command of this offense. He knows how to run Kyle's offense. But when Trey's out there, it's just like, okay, let me get my reps in. I don't get a sense or feel like he has a command of the offense.
Yeah, and I was talking to someone the other day, man. Oh, actually, my co-host Brian Peacock, and I was like, bro, it's got to be tough. And again, there's gonna be people, Crock, you are a Trey sexual. Like, dude, no, I'm not. I really don't care. I'm just trying to make sense of everything that they're doing and like how I would feel. And as a quarterback specifically, right? You're Brock Purdy. You get your first team snaps, and then the second string guy gets his snaps, third string guy gets his snaps, and then I'm back. I get my snaps. And the second string guy gets snaps, third string guy, then I'm back. I get my snaps, right? So you get to kind of play, get in the rhythm, do some things. Okay, I'm running with the ones. Okay, man, I'm on the same page. I've been taking snaps from the same center every time. I'm throwing the Ayuk, I'm throwing the Debo. Like, you kind of get a chance to be, things to be a little bit more fluid. When you are not just Trey, but Sam Darnold as well, it's a little tougher because it's, okay, Brock got his. Okay, my first quarterback up with the second team. Oh, no, I'm okay. Oh, it is me. Okay, it's me. Okay, so you're up, and then third string goes up, and then Brock goes up, and then now it's not you. So now I got to wait.
And I agree. I mean,
and then then this Brock goes again. Then finally, it's my turn. Okay, I'm back out there. And I think that's the part where some of these guys, whether it's Sam or Trey, might be a little bit more difficult to kind of maneuver through when your reps aren't coming as fluidly, and you kind of just have to make do with what you get.
Right, and like Brock's situation is stable. He knows what offensive line he's going to be running with. He knows who's going to be out on the outside. He knows when he's up. And yeah, like you said, Sam Darnold and Trey Lance were splitting second team reps. Trey will start off, and then next period Sam will start off, and they split every single second team rep. So yeah, their situation is way more fluid.
I saw that there were some drops that happened, and we did note the kind of the interception from Brock Purdy. But Cameron Latou, this is a guy who now he's started to come into being like a serial ball dropper. Pause.
Yeah.
Last week he's dropping passes in practice. He goes up, after, and he's like, that's on me. I got to get on the jug machine. I got to do these things. Take us through the throw. You talked about I think it was like in the back of the end zone. Trey Lance threw a pass to him, should have been a touchdown, and Latou dropped it.
Yeah, so this was a 2-minute drill. Trey Lance drove him down the field, some nice throws over the middle, drove him down the field. So he drops back, steps up into the pocket, rolls left. He's about to run, stops on a dime, throws it in the back of the end zone. Perfect throw. Only Latou can get it dropped. It's not a tough grab at all. Latou should have easily caught that pass, jumped up, hit him right in his hands, dropped. It would have been a cap on a great drive. But like you said, he's been having the drops, and I've been reading on that. I mean, it's something you gotta figure out.
Now, Trey Lance got a lot more snaps than Sam Darnold, and we know they're splitting reps. Some of the people asked me in the spaces about it, and I was like, well, one thing that Trey has been doing very well is move the ball, and move the ball drills. So, just if you're consistently moving the ball in those type of drills, you're going to get more snaps. Why do you think that Trey got more snaps than Sam Darnold?
I mean, when Sam Darnold was in, it was either a quick check down or a patting the ball, like I don't know where to go, roll out and throw it away type. So maybe that had a lot to do with it. When Trey was in, the only mishaps he had were fumble snaps, false start, and that one false start. But when Trey was in, he was moving the ball. He was getting the ball out of his hands. He was throwing it down the field, throwing it across the middle for that 10, 15 yard sweet spot that the Niners love. He just looked more comfortable back there and, was able to move the offense. When Sam was back or Darnold was back there, it just didn't look fluid at all. And it was just kind of like he was more so hesitant back there. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if he's been like that all camp, but it was either a quick check down or he didn't know where to go with the ball.
I think Sam Darnold, from everything I've seen, he started off very like, man, it looks good. He's looking good. Shorts in the t-shirt, like, the ball's coming out. He's doing some things. And then I feel like after that, each kind of practice, he kind of started trending in the other way a little bit. And I think that's probably been one of the more probably disappointing things for me because, like, man, I'm rooting for Sam Darnold. Like, first of all, I'm rooting for all these guys. I want to see all these guys do well. But Sam Darnold, he's USC Trojan. Mm-hmm. I loved watching him at USC. I feel like you get drafted to one of the worst organizations in football, the New York Jets, and their situation and didn't work out. They had Adam Gase, they fired Gase, and then they end up trading him away. He goes to Carolina. Midway through his second year there, the head coach gets fired. They had a situation. They brought in Sam Darnold. Baker Mayfield, and then he finishes kind of strong. Like I think he won like 4 out of the 6 games, but the numbers weren't like great. So it was like, not really you, but you're doing a good job. You're doing cool. But I felt like him going to the 49ers would be like, all right, we'll get a chance to see the best version of Sam Darnold. What is that going to look like? And it came out. It started off, man, it looks good.
Yeah.
And then now it seems like it's just kind of telling in the opposite way a little bit, where Trey seems to be kind of trending a little bit more upward. And here's a good thing, and I love some of the context that you brought, because I think some people look at his passing attempts and is like, I think it was like he today completed 50% of passes, but you're like, man, look good. He's throwing the ball. He was accurate. Just had some drops. And I know you talked about one of his first throws where you're like, man, he threw a strike over the middle, dropped. So like, what does that look like? Because that sounds like more of the staples of Kyle Shanahan's offense, where he wants to hit guys in that kind of intermediate area.
So today, from me seeing this first practice, it looked like Trey was so comfortable throwing across the middle. Last year, watching Trey, I was nervous for him throwing across the middle. It didn't look good. Like his footwork to his release, it didn't look good, right? Today, it looked natural. It looked like he was in the motion. Like it looked like he knew what he was doing. He wasn't scared to throw it across the middle. When I look at Trey and Brock, they're not afraid to make mistakes today. They're not afraid to make mistakes. And you've seen, Purdy throw that interception. With Darnold, it's like he's trying not to throw an interception. He's trying too hard to take care of the ball. Sometimes you gotta let it go. You just gotta let it rip. Trust your instincts, trust your footwork, your arm. But with Trey, man, he looks good today. And what I think what Kyle wants to see from him is probably a more, like, if I had to say, a more command of the offense. Maybe like minimizing those fumble snaps and just like I said, taking control of the offense. Let everybody know you're the quarterback. This is my huddle. Let's go. And I see it from Brock, but maybe that's what they want to see from Trey. Because other than that, he looks really good. Like, he looks really good today, and I was surprised.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing too. I don't think it's only you that's surprised. Mm-hmm. And I kind of tweeted this out yesterday in the thread. I'm like, I think Kyle Shanahan's kind of surprised as well. Now, again, there might be some areas where they still want him to improve, but I think when they signed Sam Darnold, and this is me kind of just being a conspiracy theorist a little bit, I don't think they expected Trey Lance to take a jump in this play. I think this was him as a rookie. This was him, his sophomore year. There's some ups and downs. It wasn't smooth, whatever. He was inaccurate. And you know what? We're expecting him to be that guy year 3. So we're going to bring in somebody like Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold's going to beat him out, and that's going to be QB2, and we'll figure out what we do with Trey Lance. And then Trey Lance goes and works with Jeff Wilkerson or whatever his name is. That was kind of disrespectful, but Mahomes QB coach. And all of a sudden, he kind of shortens up his throwing motion. He starts to be a little bit more consistent throwing the ball. He's a little bit more accurate now. And now it's like, damn, we weren't really expecting we weren't expecting to see this version of Trey Lance. And dang, we didn't even give him a shot to even potentially start, which is tough because of what Brock did last year. But I don't know. It's kind of been interesting to see how Kyle handles the quarterback situation. I'm curious to see what it looks like in the preseason game from these guys, because ultimately, like that's what's going to matter most. But are you going to be out there tomorrow?
Yeah. Are you out here? Are you going to come out?
I ain't come. I mean, you ain't hit me back, so I ain't go out there.
Look, man, come out here. We can make it work, bro.
All right, I'll leave. I'll leave later today. I'll go out there.
All right, I'm gonna text my brother. We're gonna make it work. I'm gonna text my brother.
I do have one more question for you, then I'll get you up out of here, and I'll start to get to the chat and everything and answer everybody's questions. But last question for you: who looked better today, Brock Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Oh, Jimmy G. I'm sorry, Jimmy G looked better. Yeah, he looked better, and the types of throws they're making are the same. Like, no, they're not taking any shots. Jimmy took that one shot to Devontae, which he caught over 2 players, but they caught it out of bounds. Yeah, made it look easy. But Jimmy G looked better. Jimmy G looked like the more mature NFL-ready quarterback, and Trey Lance just looked like that quarterback that could be the next big thing.
Wait. So hold on, because you skipped over Brock. So you said Jimmy G
looked better than Brock Purdy. They were making the same types of throws, but it just looked. Jimmy looked way more comfortable.
Probably Jimmy looks like the 9-year version of
Brock Purdy is what I'm saying. Yeah, and I'll go to Trey Lance. Trey Lance just looks like, okay, this kid could be special. Like, he got something to him. I never really seen Trey Lance throw in person. When he throws the ball, it shoots out his hands. Like, it's just and it was on the money today. So, like, he really changed my mindset of how I felt about Trey. Just seeing him in person, I think he still has a chance to be special, Crock. I know it's practice.
Yeah, it's your practice. So again, we gotta see in the games. I'm gonna try to get out there today, man. I'm gonna try to get out there today. Oh, we got some super chats, and we'll see if any of these have an answer or a question for you. Let me see. So here we go. So we got Tia. Shout out to Tia in the chat. You can tell Trey is just trying not to piss Kyle off. If Trey makes a mistake, Kyle gets pissed. Kyle doesn't have the same stance with Purdy or Sam. Is that something you see? Like, do you think that he has like, man, I'm tired of him doing this stuff and just, I'm going to pull him out? Or, because like you said, you're watching him. And that's been the tough thing for me because I watch him in practice too. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people, oh, man, Brock is QB1. And he is. Yeah. Brock is undoubtedly, unquestionably QB1. He will be starting week 1 in Pittsburgh. I don't think there's anything anybody can do. But I have said, if they made it an open competition.
Mhm.
And let's say you disregard anything you saw last year. You're just watching these guys in practice and what it looks like. It is a lot closer than people think from that standpoint. Like if you're just watching the quarterbacks and you're just watching them practice and what it looks like, it's not, I don't think it's what fans think because we watched Brock last year. So it looks more like, okay, Brock, okay, Trey. And like, it looks like it actually looks like more of what you would think it would look like.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, this guy was taking number 3 overall. This guy was the last pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying he's like playing bad, but in the sense of there being like a separation that people assume there is, like we haven't quite seen that. The separation happened in actual games.
In the actual game.
Right. So yeah, I don't know if Kyle, has,
So I was actually looking for it. So when he fumbled the snap and then had a false start, I was looking for it. He walked over to Shanahan, body language kind of off, but Shanahan gave him 2 taps to the chest. I don't know if it was like, you're done, get out, or ready for the next verse.
Yeah.
So he gave him 2 taps to the chest.
All right, here we go. We got another super chat here from Richard Walker. He says, being that both of you guys have seen Trey up close, what do you guys expect in the first preseason game and going forward? I'll start off by answering with what I'm seeing, and then hopefully I drive out there tonight to Vegas, and I know you're there already, and you'll be at practice tomorrow. But I have seen a quarterback take a big step in the right direction. I think the toughest thing for him is there's still kind of a limited amount of reps when you're splitting the twos with Sam Darnold. So, if he would have had throughout this time just a normal amount of reps, even if it's not always with the twos, but it's more of a rhythm of Purdy, Lance, then Darnold, or Purdy, Darnold, then Lance, he would have more throws, more attempts. And I think that you'd start to see him even kind of separate himself a little bit more from Darnold. And then in preseason, I kind of expect to see that just a little bit more natural, fluid, a little bit more accurate quarterback. And the thing I'm curious to see the most is because I haven't really seen him utilize his legs as much in camp. Does he start to make plays on the move during preseason? What does that look like? So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing in a preseason game. Does he use his legs more to make plays through the air? But what about you?
The same. I want him to be aggressive. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's what I'm seeing from Darnold. I don't want to see it from Trey. Trust what you worked on throughout this offseason. Trust what you did in practice because it looks really good in practice, and I definitely see the progress he's made. So I mean, let it rip in the preseason game, and I expect for the fans to see how much more he's accurate and a better feel that he has for the game. So I expect him to do his thing in preseason. He's going to get a lot of reps.
All right, then here we go. Last question here. We got my guy Chris. He says, this is great. It is great, man. And it's been great chopping up with my dog, Josh Harper. Again, Fresno State, great. Spent some time with the Raiders, man. And your brother. So, okay, real quick. We'll get to your brother real quick because I don't even think I've mentioned your brother throughout this whole broadcast. But your brother is a coach for the 49ers. Yeah. So before you get out of here, how has that been with him coaching? He's been on the staff for 2-3 years now?
3 years. I mean, 3 years. He loves it. I mean, because he was in Philly for about 7 years. Yeah. So he was on the East Coast away from, a lot of family. So, and we grew up Niner fans. It's in our blood. So, him being back with his childhood team is, he loves it. So, hopefully he can add another ring to his, his thing because he got it one with the Eagles.
Yeah. And then, and now I keep saying last thing, but this is the last thing.
No, you good.
Your cousin is Saweetie.
Yeah,
the rapper.
That's my niece. That's my niece. That's my brother.
She's your niece. Yeah, all right, so we saw Saweetie on the Jake Paul stream.
Yeah,
right? So we're watching it. And my daughter, my daughter's 7 years old. She said, "Daddy, who's that?" I'm like, "Oh, Saweetie. She does music and everything like that." She said, "Oh man, she's so stylish." Oh yeah, a lot of people like Saweetie.
Your daughter knows what's up. There we go.
Yeah. Well, all right, Josh, man, dang man, appreciate you coming out. You want to plug anything? I know you got a podcast you do sometimes with my guy CJ Ruthless.
Yeah, Chris Ruthless every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific. And then I mean, let me know whenever you want me to come back on, man. I'm just getting started up with this, so let me know.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Appreciate you, big dog.
Yeah,
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Shout out to my guy, Josh Harper, Fresno State great, Fresno State legend. 3rd overall in Fresno State history with receptions, 7th overall in Fresno State history, yards. Spent some time. His quarterback was Derek Carr, actually. So Carr was his quarterback. He spent some time with the Raiders as well. He's been coaching. He was at Oregon State. That's why every once in a while you guys might see me wear an Oregon State shirt. Got it from my dog Josh. Spent some time with the Raiders coaching as well. So a lot of experience there, but clearly 49er fan. And he talked about his niece being Saweetie. I want to say her dad, his uncle, maybe his dad, one of them played for the 49ers. So that was where their ties got into the 49ers and stuff like that. So fun to hear him talk, non-biased. He ain't got no agendas. He's just going off what he watches. And it was very interesting to hear him say, man, I wasn't expecting to see Trey Lance look good. And Trey Lance looked good. And I'd say that most of what I've seen from Trey Lance during camp was Trey Lance looks good. So that's been interesting. We got Chris here. He says, can we call in? Yeah, man, I'll put the link in the chat. I'll put it in here again. Pause. Here's the link right here. Again, if you guys are, just joining it, make sure that y'all
like and subscribe this video.
There we go. Those are my girls right there, man. Those are my girls. Shout out to them. All right, we got some callers coming on. And first up, we got my guy, Tara Dome. Tara Dome, man. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How's my sound?
Sound good, man. Sound good. Look good. 49er stuff in the background. Helmet spinning. Everything's great, man.
Spinning, baby. We spinning.
So what are your thoughts? I know you've seen some of the reports probably on social media from today's practice, joint practice between the 49ers and the Raiders. And then obviously, I just spent, 45 minutes talking with my guy, Josh Harper. And, he tried to bring, some insight on some of the things that he saw. But what are some of your thoughts from the joint practice at training camp?
I thought it was okay. I expected my defense to do a lot better against Mr. Garoppolo. I think we have to take in consideration he does know the defense, and Nicholas John Bosa wasn't there. And, it is practice. Garoppolo's always been a pretty accurate guy. He's got a great weapon in whom I consider the premier receiver in the National Football League, that's of Devontae Adams. And he's got some weapons. I was disheartened to hear about Greenlaw with a hamstring, as well as Drake Jackson hamstring as well. And prayers up for Ray. Ray's got a broken wrist. I think we're going to look for him. It will be estimates if it's 8 weeks. Just doing the math right now, we're in the first week of August, second week of August actually. We probably looking at week 3, maybe he'll be back. But I'm hearing that our receivers are having some drops. And man, back in high school, my coach didn't even want to hear anything about drops. He said, if you got a cough, I bet not even see a cough drop on this field. You better take some Robitussin.
Here's my thoughts on that. Here's my thoughts on that, all right, as it pertains to the drops. Because I coach high school football, 7-on-7, all that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen an increasing amount of drops. And I always took pride in catching the ball, having really good hands. If you are going to drop a ball, you better be Des Bryant, you better be Terrell Owens. Right? Like those are guys that might drop a ball, but hey, I'm going to do so many special things outside that drop. So yeah, I dropped one ball a game. But then I'm having 150 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game as well. Cameron LeCoux, you can't keep dropping these passes. Like you are fighting to be, first of all, on the roster, which I assume he will be because he was a 3rd-round pick. 3rd-round picks, typically you're going to make it. But the 49ers got an interesting tight end room. You got George Kittle. You got Charlie Warner. I think those guys are, George Kittle, obviously a lock. Charlie Warner, I think he's a lock. And then it's been the kid out of Oklahoma, who it sounds like by all the reports and some of the things I've seen and just watching him the way he moves, he looks to be tight end 3 or maybe even tight end 2, but he's jumped ahead of you, LeCoux. So, or at least, again, from what I've seen right now. I could be wrong.
That's been reported, and it's been pretty
But
consistent.
he looked good, and I'm watching him run routes. And I'm like, and my bro, we had to practice. He's like, bro, who's number 9? Like, what receiver is that? I'm like, bro, I ain't a receiver. That's a tight end. You know what I'm saying? But he's like fluid, and he's moving well, and he's catching the rock, and he's been active, and we see him catching the ball down the field. Yeah. So it's like Cameron Latou. I watched you. We've been talking about the drops, right? And I didn't really think nothing of it then, but now I kind of like, watching Cameron Latou in one-on-ones. And I don't put a whole lot of stock in one-on-ones. That's probably why I forgot about this. But I watched him beat Jair Brown. And he just beat him. Just beat Jair Brown down the field. It was either like a post or like a kind of a bang A. It was like a deep cross or something like that.
Yeah.
And beat him by a few yards. Uncontested catch and just flat out dropped it. I mean, just flat out dropped it, Cameron Latou. So those drops that he's been having, I mean, this has been consistent. And a lot of times you see drops like this because there's a concentration issue. Oh, yeah. Like so with the kids, right? I know that the kids that are dropping a lot of balls that I coach, well, they got all these other distractions. They got social media. They got these girls. They got all these different things that's distracting them. And they don't even realize it's going through their mind. But the last thing they're focused on is the ball that's coming their way. They drop it. With Cameron Latou, or some of these young guys in general, you'll see guys young drop passes. When you start to focus on all these other things, and it's like, okay, Josh talked about identifying the defense. Is it too high? Is it single high? Is there late movement? How do I run this route from this? Am I hot? Yeah. Is there a blitz coming out to break my route off? And then, there's the ball. And then drop. So you have some of those things going on there. Maybe when he gets settled in more, he will start to kind of, we'll see those drops. I mean, I think I heard, and you're a little bit more wise than me, but was Jerry Rice?
Jerry Rice, he did his rookie year, man. We were like, man, he's Butterfingers. But I knew it had to come alive because Dad and I had watched him at Mississippi Valley State, and again in the East-West Shrine game in 1984. It was right in Christmas. Dad and I had watched the game, and then we had to go to a church function, and he was lighting up. These were legendary DBs at the time. It was like Hartley Dykes was out there, Lewis Oliver, all these big name dudes. And Lewis Oliver was a 6'4" safety from Florida, man. He would scare you just looking at him. And Little Black College, Jerry Rice is out there cooking everybody. He was the MVP of that game. And I said, Dad, I think he coming to them 49ers. And bam, we snaked Dallas and got him just before that. So I knew it was coming. But then again, Jerry Rice had a little bit of a, he had latitude because he's a first round pick, number 16 overall.
Right.
You get a little latitude.
Third round pick. When you're late third round, damn near fourth round, you can't be out there dropping passes.
Yeah, if you unsigned free agent or 7th round, you better not be putting that past the money on the floor. We don't do that.
Especially when someone that, even if he was drafted later, is doing well, which it looks like right now. And I keep forgetting. I keep wanting to call him Blake Bell. Jordan Willis. Or Braden Willis. All right. I don't know why I keep wanting to call him Blake Bell. Maybe because he went to Oklahoma as well. But Braden Willis, and we done seen Trey Lance already get Wally pipped by Brock Purdy, where it's like, hey, you were drafted higher, but this guy come in. I
did my show today on draft bias and how a first rounder is looked at and what you think of them, and the opportunities are unrestricted or undrafted free agent or a 6th or 7th round guy gets. It's something in your mind, but when you just make it a competition, hey, let me see what you got. You have an opportunity, but it's going to be minimal. It's going to be very minimal. You're not going to get all the reps. So every rep counts 10 times more, and you got to be able to get it. You got to be able to do it. First rounders, they get numerous reps and they get extra, a little padding. Hey, look, just take your time. Hey, let me give you a little extra here. Let me give you a little extra there. You ain't got that. Right. In round 6, 7, and undrafted free agent. You simply don't have it.
So before I get to the next caller, did you have anything else you want to touch on? Because I know you talked about.
We're going to talk about the quarterbacks. I'm happy to see that Trey. It's feeling a little bit more comfortable to him. He's elevating. He's getting better, more comfortable in doing some things. Brock's is my dude. When you go to the playoffs and do it like that, I simply have to love you. And that's why, the San Francisco 49er organization, coaching staff love a dude who has went out and did it and knocked down obstacle after obstacle. We weren't even supposed to have him. We estimated to game 4. And this kid shows up after that surgery. That I got that surgery online. It'll drop in my chat, or I'll put it on to look at that UCL surgery. He wasn't even supposed to be back, but every obstacle you throw at the young man, he keep on coming like a Terminator 2010. What are you going to do? Everybody hoping he would just go into the tank and be Nick Mullins, and the pumpkin would turn into a carriage, or the carriage back into the pumpkin, glass slipper. That's over with. But he knocks down obstacle. You put it in front of him, say, you ain't going to be back. Bam, I'm going to be there the first day. Well, you can't throw it far. I'm going to overthrow him. Well, you don't do this. Well, I'm going to do that now. You go left. Well, watch me go right. Just, as an underdog, as a 7th round pick, as a unrestricted free agent, all you could do is, or undrafted free agent, all you could do is give me the shot. Let me show you what I'm going to do with it. And I ain't got to cut down Trey one bit to say this. The dude just answered the call. He just answered the bell. He was ready and just did his thing. And I think with the progression of time, he's gonna heal up a little bit more, and he just gonna knock down the obstacles, man. It's just like that. And for all those people that say we don't have a franchise quarterback, I know we got at least 2.
Well, here's the thing. Franchise quarterback, you'll find that out. You know what I'm saying? And over the next year or two, like if Brock Purdy repeats what he did as a rookie, I would consider that, hey, he's trending in the direction of being a franchise quarterback. So,
if Trey continues to get better, I think that's a franchise quarterback. He went out on his own and he grinded. That dude goes out and says, I hear what y'all said. I see my deficiencies. I'm going to switch things up. I'm going out here and get my own quarterback coach and correct whatever it is. Now what? That's all you can ask for these young men, man. And I look at both of them like they sons of mine. All you can do is what you can do. Make the most of your opportunities. And I think a big day is coming up Sunday for Trey Lance. He's going to show improve.
Awesome stuff. All right, Terry Dome. I'm going to get to the next caller, man. Appreciate you coming on.
God bless you.
All right. Here we go. Next up, got my guy, Chris Roscoe. Chris, how you doing, man?
What's up, Crock? You can hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Nice, loud, and clear.
Bruh. Hey, what's up, man? I'm trying to go to the practice too, right? If you drive it up here, you got to drive through SoCal.
Well,
I'll just sue me up.
I have to drive through SoCal, but I'm continuing from Vegas on to Arkansas.
Oh, never mind.
So if you want to go to Arkansas, I got
you. Nope. Yeah, definitely not going there. But man, great show. That's what I wanted. I wanted to hear somebody, non-biased person, and I wanted to get an insight of everything. And just knowing that he felt a certain type of way about Trey Lance the previous year, and he wasn't even expected much, to come back and say, well, I mean, he looked comfortable throwing over the middle. He looked more sure than Sam Darnold. He was surprised by his performance. And the last thing he said about how he thinks Trey can be special and how he thinks Trey can be the next big thing and how the ball zip off his arm, I was like, yeah. It just seems like Trey Lance is kind of putting it all together. It's unfortunate that he got hurt. It's unfortunate that he's in a situation where he's really just not getting an opportunity to win the QB1 job. And he did say, like I did say, it was kind of hard to even try to have a quarterback competition when what we see with Purdy winning 2 playoff games. I definitely agree with Josh there, but he did a great job. Excellent show. I mean, a lot of insight. That's a lot of insight. how he talked about how Sam Darnold. It looks like Sam Darnold is trending down, and I'm a USC guy too. I love Sam Darnold, but he looks unsure and in checking down the balls, and so it's very interesting stuff that he gave. I mean, there was a lot of information that he gave.
What did you think about his comments on Brock Purdy?
Could you refresh my memory on some of the things he said? One of the things he said is he feels that Brock Purdy has more command of the offense than Trey Lance. He doesn't see that from Trey Lance, and I would say it makes sense because it's like I started 7-8 games already under center with these guys. So I think you're going to have more command of the offense just because you've been in there. You're more comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So I think those are the reasons why. But again, he also said, and that's maybe the 49ers are looking at that from Trey Lance, looking like you need more of that from Trey Lance. And I definitely agree. Like they would love to see him have more command of the offense. So I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, the interceptions. You have to refresh my memory on the other things he said about Purdy.
He talked about some of the areas where he was successful, and not
over the middle. Yeah, he said he didn't see him throw on the outside. He said Purdy looked great throwing over the middle, but he didn't really see him attempt outside throws. And if he did throw it outside the numbers, it was picked off. And I mean, that goes back to the limitations that you've talked about, other people talked about. I know that Brock Purdy struggles throwing it to the right side. I know that. And so, especially downfield, I think he rarely even did it. And when he did last year, it was a pick, right? Against the Miami Dolphins. So, I mean, these are things that we know, though. I mean, we know Purdy's limitations. We know what he succeeds at. I mean, remember the YouTube video analysis we watched from that one guy. He broke it all down. He showed how Purdy dang near completed like 80% over the middle, intermediate throws, I think from 10 to 19 yards. So
the best ever.
Again, yeah. So that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all. But I mean, Shanahan is okay with that at the end of the day. Yeah. But all right, Crock, I appreciate you. And again, great show, man. I really enjoyed this.
All right, appreciate you.
All right, bro.
All right, shout out to my guy Chris Roscoe. He went down for the drive to Arkansas. So that's a little unfortunate. Here we go. We got a super chat here. Seems like Kyle Shanahan is coaching Trey Lance a bit harder. No, I don't think he's coaching them harder. I think it's more so maybe again, and I don't know. Listen, I have no idea. I'm just speculating here. He could be tired of coaching up some of the same things. Oh man, you fumbled in practice, a couple of times, or you fumbled this time in practice, and then man, today you fumbled in practice. All right, I'm tired of that, man. Just get out. It could be that. I don't know if he's coaching them up more or less. Now, again, fumbles is maybe something that you can not saying you can't control throwing interceptions, but throwing a pick, maybe you're just trying something different. The play starts with a snap. So it's like, we can't get the snap going. We can't even get the play going. So he could just be a little bit frustrated with that, more so than even the turnover-worthy throws by some of the quarterbacks. But I don't know. I hear you. All right, here we go. Next up, we got Tia.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
Good. I got 3 points. The first one is it comes off, I guess, when people ask Kyle how Trey looks, as far as has he progressed, he looks good, his throwing motion. He kind of steers away from praising him and reverts it back to, Sam Darnold looks like this, or Brock Purdy looks like this, or he, praises Brandon Allen for whatever reason. It seems like when he's given a layup, he's just like, no, forget the layup. I'm gonna go back to the 3-point line, and I'm gonna try to make a 3-point line and talk about everybody else. It seemed like he just don't want to talk nice about Trey Lance for whatever reason. And I don't know if it's because it seemed like he may be a little upset that he didn't stick with the person that he wanted him to stick with as far as the quarterback coaching. But to me, if the guy is not improving my skill set, why would I stay? I need to find somebody who's going to help me do what I need to do, because you keep saying this is what's wrong. So let me find somebody who's going to be able to help me. And if Jeff Christian was the person to help you in 2 months, do what you need to do. I don't understand what the problem is. It seemed like there's some animosity going on right there. you can tell because when they asked Trey about it, he kind of avoided too. So whatever the issue is, it just seemed like it's something there. I don't know if he said something. I don't know if he did something, but whatever it is, it's between him and Kyle. And it's kind of the same attitude he had towards Jimmy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Where you ask him something about Jimmy. Well, you know, I just need him to go out there and run the plays. I get it, but like you said, throwing 10, 15 yards, that ain't going to help us win no Super Bowl.
Right.
Because you don't see Mahomes. Yeah, Mahomes can throw 10, 15 yards, but when he needs to throw it 30, 40 yards, he's going to throw it 30, 40 yards. And then that's going to help him get closer to the end zone so we can score and get more points. So it just seems like it comes off as there's something there. Whether they're not telling us or whatever happened between this offseason, something happened. Because Lynch even said, oh, yeah, Trey looks great. You know, he looks better than what we've seen in the last 3 years. You know, he come out here. I'm glad he went out there and found his own person to help him. So it seemed like Lynch was like, good job. And it's like Kyle was like, why would you do that? Kind of attitude.
Yeah, the funny thing is, or not funny, but interesting, Jeff Christensen, the guy that Trey Lance went and worked out with in the offseason, he said, y'all will see a different version of Trey Lance in camp. Like, he's improved. We worked on some things. You'll see a different version of him. And it sounds like just lip service at first because it's like, well, this guy's been working with him. Of course he's going to say that. And then now it's like, no, we are seeing a different version of him. Like, he's been better. He's more accurate. He's more consistent. He's more consistent throwing in certain areas of the field. Some of the throws, especially these later throws he's making, like, he's doing a lot of really good things. And I still tie it back to, I don't think Kyle Shanahan expected him to take the jump that he has this offseason. That's what it feels like to me. I
agree.
The way things were set up with, bringing in Sam Darnold and people saying, oh, he's QB2. I think that was his intentions on, like, well, what we've seen from Trey with the first couple of years, like, Sam just comes out and does what I think he'll do. Like, he'll be a better backup. Like, he can be QB2, and Trey's just, he's just far too erratic. And then camp started, and it's like, well, this is a different version of Lance. Like, Sam, I'm sorry, I did bring you in to be the QB2, but this guy has been better than I expected. And then you listen to my guy Josh Harper, who was just on. And if y'all tuning in late, you can listen to the audio version of this on Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. So, but I had my guy Josh Harper on. He was at practice today, and he was like, man, I didn't have high expectations for Trey Lance going to watch him because I watched him last year. I see him missing throws. He wasn't comfortable throwing over the middle. And today he looked like he's going to be a superstar. He just saw that type of ability from him and that type of, throwing the ball and how comfortable he got. And I saw a lot of that at the practices I was at. I don't think that Kyle expected that jump. And I think it's kind of put him in a tight spot.
Me and my husband were having the same thought, like, okay, I think they thought he was going to come in, be the same old Trey. And, like you said, the backup plan was Sam Darnold. What happened was people start reporting that Trey looks different, that Trey looks great. Now you got teams like, okay, well, if y'all don't want him, we'll take him since y'all don't want him. But I think they're afraid that if they let him go and he gets the opportunity to play, he's going to flourish. And they don't want to make that mistake. But what I don't want to happen is that they sit here and do this Brock Purdy experiment, right? Shelf Trey just because they don't want him to go somewhere else and get the playing time and maybe flourish in another offense. So I think they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. My thing is, if you believe in Brock, which I think, like you said, he should start because he did do so great.
100%. Well,
right.
Okay, hold on. Yes, he should start. I mean, I felt like he should have came into camp being QB1.
Right.
And I think that should not have been questioned at all.
Right.
I would have assumed, because of how it went down, because of the lack of, or the unfortunate incidents with Lance, that you would at the very least would have given your number 3 overall guy a chance to compete. Now, you can go into it and say, oh, yeah, we'll make it a competition. Trey Lance broke his ankle. Brock Purdy did exceptionally well. That was some terrific quarterback play from him. Loved it. And behind closed doors, you can say, man, there's no way Trey Lance is going to beat him out. So, yeah, I'll make it a competition just out of respect of, okay, we spent a lot of capital, etc. But there's no way Lance is going to beat out Brock Purdy. And then if you look at them right now, if you didn't know who any of the guys were and you're just out there watching the guys, it would be a lot closer. The thing that Brock has over Lance right now is they've already told me I'm the guy and I played very well last year. And that's it. Like, but from just watching guys, like if you just look who's the better quarterback, you might ask 3 people and get 3 different answers. But Ingram, I appreciate you coming on, Tia. I'm gonna get to the next caller.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. Next caller. Somebody calling me on my phone. All right, next caller coming on. We got Forever Faithful.
What's up, brother?
How you doing, man? Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Got you.
All right. Yep. Just wanted to come on and say what's up. Love getting on with y'all guys. Chris, I love Chris and his takes. Love kicking it with him on the spaces, on the X spaces, I guess you would call it now. I like Ryan G. Hensley's take. I just want to see the best quarterback and the best guy play. Like, enough of the, is it Trey's job? Is it Brock's job? Who's starter? Brock's the starter. If he starts and he lights it up, let's get behind him. Let's support Brock. And if it's Trey in 2 or 3 weeks, let's get behind Trey. Let's support Trey. Go Niners. Just want to say good show. Love it. And let's go kick the Raiders' butt this weekend, man.
I know. Hey, I'm going to be out, and for anyone that's going to be in Vegas, I'm actually going to be at an event with Charles Woodson. I'm going to be on stage with Charles Woodson. That's going to be pretty dope, man. So it's kind of a pregame party and everything to the game. So if y'all are going to be out there in Vegas, I'll be there. And yeah, it's at the Mandalay Bay Casino Resort. So if you are going to be out in Vegas, man, make sure y'all holler at me, man. Pull up.
Heck yeah. Yep. Niners. Let's go all day.
All right. Appreciate you. Okay, here we go. And I want to make it very clear. This forum here for everyone is thoughts. Like, we give our thoughts, and some things might be a take. I don't think anybody comes on here and says anything too wild for the most part. But for the most part, it's just, hey, what are our thoughts on this? And my thoughts on the Trey Lance situation is, man, it's just interesting, like 0 chance to compete, like 0. And I understand it. Even if you just throw it out there, right? Because if Brock is who you say he is, he played exceptionally well last year. He played very well. Don't get that misconstrued. I saw things a little different than some other people, and my guy Chris can kind of vouch for that. Like, Crock's been saying some of these things. And I've seen a lot of guys get out to hot starts, and then they kind of come back down to earth for whatever reason. So I just thought, hey, man, this guy, he broke his ankle. Maybe you didn't have high expectations. But at the very least, it's like, man, we did spend a lot of capital on you. We'll let you compete. And you know what? We're not expecting anything from, we'll let you compete. But, man, this is Brock's job. Brock's going to do his thing. And in the process of that, you got what my guy Josh Harper just came on and said. And he said, he skipped over Brock Purdy. He was like, man, I asked him who was the better quarterback, like who looked out there better today, Brock Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo. He touched on that and essentially said what you would kind of expect, right? Basically, he said Jimmy looked like the better quarterback. He looked like the 9-year version of Brock Purdy. And as he should. Like, dude, you've been in the league. You've had how many training camps? You've had how many reps? Like, of course, you should be better, or you should look better than Brock Purdy. I think that Jimmy is a good quarterback in the NFL. So if he comes into practice, and again, it's just practice, but he looks better than your, Brock Purdy, well, yeah, I'd expect that. But the interesting thing was he went from Jimmy, skipped over Brock, and started talking about Trey Lance and what he saw from Lance. And that was the thing where I'm like, whoa, hold on. You skipped Brock. And essentially it was just like, interesting. So this is not a format or a spot where, we want to give like these biased takes or anything like that. We're just having conversations. So hopefully people can like understand that. I see Tab here. He said, it's practice. Okay. So why are you in here? Because you want to hear about practice. The thing says 49ers Raiders joint practice report. So what do you want us to talk about? We talking about practice and what it looks like. We're talking about practice and what practice looks like. And we're just talking about that. What it looked like. The good and the bad. What things have been consistent. We're just talking about it. We got some Raider Nation in here. Where's it at? I just saw it. Here we go. 631 ENT Raider Nation, man. Hey, whether you're a Niner fan or a Raider fan, y'all know what to do, man. You guys go ahead and
like and subscribe this video.
Awesome. Nice stuff there. All right, here we go. And I got a super chat before I get to the next caller. Sean, he says, nah, you tripping. If you're not willing to pay Brock Purdy $200 million over 5 years, he's not a franchise quarterback. He's Mr. Moment. If they pay Brock Purdy for being on the squad, the bar is hella low, and for being the okay, hold on. Shaking my head. Bar is hella low for being the dude right now. Okay, I get what you're saying. So basically, Sean, and here's the thing, Sean, look, we will find that out over time. I don't think that anybody right now is ready to make a definitive statement on Brock. Well, you got some people definitely ready to make a definitive statement on Trey, but on Brock, I know my biggest thing is like, man, like I see some things where I'm like, okay, what's it going to look like this year? I just want to see, like, what does it look like? And I think that's where the 49ers are at as well. Hey, man, he did some things that we really like. Man, we love this. He's the real deal. All that, right? What will it look like throughout this season? And if it looks bad, then probably go get Kirk Cousins. All right, here we go. Next up, got my guy Blue Magic 23. How you doing, man?
Crock, what's mobbing? I know. Don't say nothing. I ain't been on X, whatever it's called now, Twitter, Face, whatever. I ain't been on it for a minute, but I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna get back today. I just had a lot going on.
Yeah, all good, yes, sir. I think I got that same hat upstairs.
Chill. You already know how we coming. East Coast. Chill. Cut it out, Crock.
Where you at on the East Coast?
I'm a Brooklyn boy. That may take some getting used to. I'm in Harlem right now, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you missed that Jets atmosphere. You might not have missed the team, but you missed that New York atmosphere.
I was in Brooklyn a little bit. Underdog Fantasy. They actually make sure you guys download the app. Underdog Fantasy. UnderdogFantasy.com.
By the way, I went and did that already.
There we go.
So Underdog, he already bringing us in. I'm already there.
Yeah. So, but I was out there in Brooklyn with them. They flew me in, but I think I was in like gentrified Brooklyn. I see what they trying to do. Man.
Yeah, they trying to do it all over too. I ain't even gonna hold you. But I love your perspective because it's also a different take. So we got a lot of content creators who just have studied the game, who really love the game, and so they give that sort of fan type of take. What I love about you is that you have the fan take because you grew up loving the 49ers.
Yeah.
But you have that, I was in camps. I was on the field. I've dealt with different coaches. I was in the league take. So what I do is I listen to everybody. Yeah, except for like spreadsheets and them. But for the general crowd, you, Larry, Jesse, Jack, Stats, Steph, you know what I'm saying? So what I do is I take and I put in perspective, Larry judges Purdy based on X, Y, and Z. Grant judges Purdy, and all the different quarterbacks on what they're evaluating.
Yeah.
I take all those little pieces, and that's something we got to start doing as fans of the team. Forget this, I'm a Trey fan, I'm a Brock fan, so I want Trey to lose, or I want Brock to lose. We got to start looking at it from an open perspective. You can still root for your guy, but don't let your fandom turn you against the other guy. Because
there's a lot of that going on. I always thought it was kind of a little weird, a little interesting, but there's definitely a lot of that going on. I see it in the chat too.
It started when Trey came because Jimmy was so beloved. And when we first got Jimmy, even in those first 5 games, I was at the mindset like, yo, this is cool, okay. But I don't trust it just yet. End of the season, other teams ain't really playing for nothing. Jimmy had just got here, so he's excited to finally get his shot after sitting behind Brady. So I'm like, let's give it a second because he didn't wow me. Now, the allure with Brock is he had wow moments. He's not a wow quarterback, but he has the ability he had because once again, there was no book out on him. There was no preparation. Our defense was rolling. Our offense was rolling with Jimmy, which we got to start putting that into context as well. As great as Brock was, Jimmy was putting up very similar numbers.
Right.
We keep forgetting that. We had some 30 plus games with Jimmy. We had some high 20 games. So the offense itself, which we know, it starts to pick up later in the season. We always start slow since we got Kyle. And we when we got Jimmy and Kyle, we got into this whole we're finally not a laughing stock team. We don't have the Tom Sulas. We don't have the Chip Kellys. We don't have the Brian Hoyers. We are getting caught in that moment. And I've heard Larry say it himself. Kyle, I wouldn't trade Kyle, and I wouldn't talk about firing Kyle because I remember the Tom Sulas. I remember the Chip Kellys. We got to cut that out.
Yeah.
We got to cut that out. We have this mentality like we've won a Super Bowl or two and been to 3 or 4. We haven't won nothing. It's cool to make it to the NFC Championship game. Hell, the Bills went to 4 straight Super Bowls. Do you think they're proud of that accomplishment? No. We kept getting close and we couldn't get it done.
Right.
We've taken on this mantra where we're on top. But the rest of the league is looking at it like, hey, yeah, they a tough out. But at the end of the day, what have they really done? So why are we looking at them like they juggernauts? On paper, you could have the greatest roster ever. I take it to basketball. The Atlanta Hawks back in the day used to kill the East and the league within every regular season with either.
Is this like Dominique Wilkins days?
No, this is the Kyle Culver, Jeff Teague, Joe Johnson.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Al Horford. That was the starting 5.
They were good. Yeah. Joe Johnson had them up there. Yeah.
Josh Smith, the lefty that could handle the ball as a big man. Kyle Culver, the shooter. Jeff Teague but they didn't have a legit star. So they would run through regular season, but then get in the playoffs and make a little sprinkle, a little splash. And I'm not saying Brock isn't the future, but I will say, and I've said this on record, I said it on Ryan's show when he had me on as a guest. We are not winning a Super Bowl with no quarterback on this roster this year. This year, I believe Brock I believe Brock will get better. He did great in this system as the last pick in the draft, almost undrafted. He did great.
I would say numbers, his numbers that he put up. And again, we're talking about with no context, right? You just look at the numbers on the paper, are some of the best in the league. So it was like, yeah, he's doing well in the system, but he was at the very least executing the offense at an extremely high level.
Exactly, but that's the part of the context that people aren't taking into account. The same thing that reporters and so forth. All he does is win. No, the team wins. The system was perfect. Now, do I believe Brock has the ability, which is why I will always say he's better than Jimmy? I believe that there will come points where Brock can actually win a game and not just be a part of winning it.
Yeah.
That was the difference with Jimmy. And we see it in Brock with his off script plays. But the traits that we love about Brock his limitations that we all can see. And I don't care what you say, no matter how much of a Brock fan you are, when you're by yourself in your own thoughts, we all know limitations. And it's not to say, pointing out someone's limitation is not to say that they can't become something or they're not good enough. So we get on Trey, the same thing. You can throw a 30-plus bomb on a string to the sidelines outside the numbers and put it in a basket, but you can't hit this running back in a flat. They can get better at these things.
Right.
Which to Trey's credit, he has gotten better. To Brock's credit, he has been, from what you guys have been reporting, he has been trying to push the ball down the field so that he begins to get comfortable with it, because you don't have to hit all of them, but you have to keep the defense honest. You have to keep them off balance. So he has to show the ability that, yo, this ain't the Jimmy Nanas. I'm gonna take that shot. I'm gonna make you play off, and then I'm gonna get back to what we do. So I believe Brock has the ability to take us very far. Another thing, Trey fans, and I'm a Niner fan. I would love to see Trey get his opportunity because I'm 41 years old and I've never. I even got it pinned on my Twitter. The amount of quarterbacks who got more of a chance, who were legit busts. And I'm an LSU fan. I'm talking Jamarcus Russell. He came in camp weighing the size of an offensive lineman and got more opportunities. And for all those that say, oh, well, the organization gave Trey his opportunity. How? You spend that much. I don't know a team that spent that much capital on a player, which was signified to Jimmy that we're done with you. We just mortgaged the house, the kids' college fund to get your replacement. So the organization messed up, which caused the divide in the first place, because you kept Jimmy.
Yeah.
You kept him. You created this. We have to start holding the organization accountable for what they're doing. You can't piss on me and tell me it's raining. That's not happening.
Yeah.
You can't, and you're right. And I said this as well. I honestly believe because you can see it in practice. Now, some people are gamers, yada, 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 but you can just see certain things in practice. So they kept seeing in practice that his balls were coming out too hot. They didn't have touch on him. He was missing the layups. And this is third year. So I believe coming in this year, number one, they drafted Sam Darnold because they didn't realize Brock's timeline.
Signed Sam Darnold, but
signed Sam Darnold because they didn't know that what Purdy's timeline was going to truly be. And number two, because they didn't believe that Trey would be able to learn what he has fixed this fast, because all this time it hadn't been fixed.
Right.
And it's not the same way. It's not an excuse when you point out the obvious and you use logic. We can talk about Trey in the Arizona game, but let's add context to it. Arizona was on a roll. They were what? It was what? They were the last undefeated team in the league.
Yeah.
So his first start, he's coming off a broken finger from the offseason, and he's playing a top level team at the moment. Now we can go back and use hindsight and say, oh, well, Arizona was frauds. At that moment, they weren't.
They were hot.
And for him to play as bad as everyone says he did, that was a close game. 1 or 2 plays, and Trey wins that first start. Then we talk about then not enough credit is given to him for the Houston game. That was a pressure game.
Winner, it essentially turned into a winner go home game.
Literally. And he started slow, but in that second half, he started to show that he had the potential to be a starting quarterback. And most Trey fans don't believe that he's the next coming of Mahomes. But what they want to see is, like every Nana fan should want to see is, what did you buy with our money? You just took my wallet, went to the store, and you're not going to show me what you brought with my bread? But we letting that ride, and we dividing amongst each other because we want either Brock to play or Trey to play. Nah, it's the organization.
Yeah, I mean, those are things, man. And I'm gonna get to the next caller, but it is interesting. It's an interesting scenario. It's one that I've never seen before with the way that's played out. I think you can kind of point to some other circumstances, but like typically there's something that is just a little different about it. This has been a very unique one, and I'd say anything that's kind of close is maybe the Philadelphia Eagles a couple times with Foles. Remember Foles, the first time he played, he took over for Mike Vick, who was an MVP candidate. He threw 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. A lot of people forget that. 20, I want to say 20. That's off the top of my head. But if I remember correctly, Foles came in for Vick, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They ended up moving on from Vick, and then Foles kind of came back down to earth. And then Carson Wentz, you trade up, you go get Carson Wentz. He's your guy, okay? He does very well as a rookie, and then or he did well as a rookie. That next year, I want to say, was when they were going on a Super Bowl run. Wentz gets hurt. Foles comes in, plays lights out, wins their first Super Bowl in team history. And then next year they said, okay, well, we invested a lot in Wentz, so he's still our guy. We're just going to trade you, Foles. And
because you served your purpose. You were our backup. A backup is there in case your starter is hurt. The only other time we did this was with Alex Smith and Cap. But Harbaugh wanted to move off of Alex Smith, period. And even in that, I said it at that moment as well. I felt bad for Alex Smith because he didn't do anything to lose his job.
Right. But all right, Mr. Blue Magic, I got to get to the next caller though.
All right, I'm gonna hit you on Twitter. I got you.
All right, for sure. All right, great caller there. Great insight and different perspective as well. I think we got some super chats that roll in. Hold on. Here we go. I'm gonna get to them. Not practice today, Eric. Live scrimmaging. Okay, I think that was when we were talking about practice. We were talking about practice. Have the 49ers done a live scrimmage? Did they do the one that was in the actual stadium? They usually do that one. I don't remember seeing that this year when they do that live scrimmage. Y'all let me know. I don't think they did that. We got Niners narrative. He says, has Lance fumbled a snap in game action? No. I can't think of any fumbles. From Lance in live, whether it's a snap or just a fumble while running. But I could be wrong, but I don't remember seeing one. All right, here we go. We got Chris. Did they start Trey or not? I think this is him asking about Trey's having a legit opportunity. Yes, they went all in last year. They said, all right, we're going to go all in on with Trey Lance. He started and he snapped his ankle game 2 and early in game 2. And we could say that's a chance, but I mean, we're talking about, 4 starts and kind of sporadic in multiple years. Like, if we're talking about a chance for a guy that was drafted as high as he was, it's very rare you say, all right, that's your shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a rookie, we had Jimmy Garoppolo and we need to win, so we played him. Next year, this is your shot. You snap your ankle week 2, and all right, that's it. That's it. You had a legit opportunity to be the quarterback here. If you want to say, yeah, that, you know, I'd say it's more unfortunate. That's what I keep saying to that. And yeah, I think you want him to answer the question, but I end up answering it. All right. Ask Crocker, Trey get demoted to third string today in practice. We talked about it a little bit when Josh was on. Josh said that, and I don't know, again, I don't know if he got demoted to third string. Listen, I don't know. But I know he said Trey was in, they had the fumble, and then they had the false start, and then they're like, all right, like, you know, get out. So after that, did he only work with the threes? I don't know. I saw reps, and he got more snaps than anybody not named Brock Purdy. So, but I don't know. Like, legit, I have no idea. And here's another one. Why make it a competition when Brock has flourished from the start and Trey came in with mechanical problems and inaccuracy issues? All this Trey Lance should be given a chance is sickening. Here's my thing. Now, I saw somebody else that commented on this on social media. They're like, it's sunken cost at this point. Look, I'm just saying, in general, I've never seen anything like it. I have never, and this is not a, oh, you just want Trey Lance to play or whatever. I would like to know, like, can he play? Can he not? But just in general, all right, just listen. We're talking about as like, we're just football fans here. All right, kind of remove your fandom, your 49 fandom, all that. All right. In general, I've never seen a guy that was drafted that high, where you spent that much capital on, and because of the circumstances where it's like, you only get 4 snaps. I have never seen that. So unless you told me that he got benched after his first start last year, and against Seahawks, he gets benched, and Brock Purdy comes in and plays excellent, and you want to roll him, cool. But that's not what happened. He actually led 2 scoring drives, and he snapped his ankle. And then it's like, all right, like, I don't get to play for the rest of the year. So I've made it very clear that anybody that says Brock Purdy should not have gone into camp as QB1, out of line. But if you want to hitch your wagon to 8 games, that's on you. I'm not doing that. Now, you can start off and you get the QB1 reps, you get all that. Like, yes. But I would have made some type of competition because I did invest a lot in this guy. And if he sucks, then he sucks. Then cool. Okay, Brock Purdy, just continue to do what you did last year. You played well. You earned the right for this opportunity to be QB1, even over a guy we gave up a lot for. And if he can't beat you out, then great. But if he can, then okay, because maybe I'm wrong. 8 games to me is a small sample size as well. It's just more than Trey Lance. But 8 games isn't a lot. So if you just at the very least said there's some type of competition and Brock, but you are QB1 and it's on you to hold that spot, like, cool. Just hold the spot then. And just beat him out or whatever you got to do. Just be who we think you are, right? Like, you think just beat him out. The issue is, I think that they weren't expecting Trey to take a step up. And to me, in the sense of just throwing accuracy, consistency, those type of things, he has looked better. Now, we're a couple days away, and everybody's going to get to see him in live action. But just if you just watch the quarterbacks, you would not know who is the best quarterback out there practicing. We talking about practice, man. I keep looking up at this camera. We talking about practice, man. Yeah, we talking about practice. But just on the field, and you're looking at Trey, and you're looking at Sam, and you're looking at Brock, you would have a hard time thinking. Here's the thing. I'd say this. You might give Brock the edge because he just gets 2 times as much reps as everybody else. So for every 1 or 2 good throws that Lance might make or Sam might make, Brock might have 2 more because he has more reps, and he's playing with the ones. For every time, Lance is throwing to Cam Latu, who drops the ball in the back of the end zone, that's not who Brock is throwing to. So there's a chance that if you're just kind of like have like novice eyes, you might say, oh, it looks like 13 is the best. But just in general, watching the guys, I'm telling you, it was hard for me, like on any given day, to be like, oh, this was the best quarterback. And I'm just listen, I ain't talking about who whatever or Trey Lance, this and that. I'm just telling you what I saw. So there were some things that I saw last year, and I was just like, okay, we'll see if those things come up. But ultimately, never have I ever said, oh, Trey Lance should start. Never have I ever said that Brock should not be QB1 heading into camp or even into week 1. But I do feel like it was interesting that there was zero type of competition after 8 games, which to me is a very small, that's still a small sample size. But y'all want to hit y'all wagon to that, like, cool. But for me, like, that's a small sample size. I don't watch enough to know. Like, we hitched our wagon to a guy that won 5 straight and ended up taking 2. Yeah, well, listen, at the end of the day, that's great. And I'm not saying that that's not good. 49er fans, I think y'all comprehension skills, I'm not saying all y'all, but there are a lot of people that is like, I feel like they're not comprehending what I'm saying. And I don't know how to make it any clearer. If you did what he did last year, you should go into camp and everything and be QB1. I can't make that any clearer. You should be the guy that start. You spent a lot on Lance, and you did not bench him. He snapped his ankle. So all I'm saying is, at the very least, your snapped ankle guy, you say, you know what? Hey, you snapped your ankle. This guy excelled. He did very well. He played well. He's going to go into our season as QB1, but you have an opportunity to compete against him. That is all I'm saying. And I don't understand how that's like, it's hard to comprehend that. Here we go. Next caller. I don't know, is it Chris or a twin? Because I see Chris's logo. Okay, it is twin. It's twin. Let's go. Twin maker. How you doing? Ricky Williams, aka Ryan.
Oh man. Hey, some folks hilarious, man. I be thinking the same thing you be thinking. I'm like, bro, my man's just trying to give y'all context. Similar, like, I like the Warriors, right? We saw Jordan Poole get busy last year. We won the championship, right? Won the ring, right?
Right.
Look at JP, the new member of the Splash Brothers. Cool. Came back this year. Came to the playoffs, man. You play against your Lakers. He was like a little drizzle. See what I'm saying? Eventually, teams like that doesn't mean he didn't ball last year. We respect what you did, my guy. But we know one thing about any professional sports, and this is why I love, again, your takes is like, when you are playing against these guys over and over and over again, you rise up on that sheet in the locker room. But first you like down number 8, you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, this player, we don't worry about him. We got the kiddos and so on and so forth to look for. We ain't gonna talk about Brock, but then you eventually move up. That doesn't mean what you didn't do last year was good, but you got to remember, over a long period of time, film, people begin to understand your tendencies. Like somebody hooping, oh, you just left hand all day long. You love it on the wing. You don't necessarily drive to the right. And if you drive to the right, you always go pull up. You don't want to finish with the right. Like, you begin to understand what it is that people do, man. So it's only thing about Brock and what's hurting Brock is that he didn't have an opportunity to practice during the offseason.
Yeah,
that's my only like gripe, is that this is a very, very hard sport to play. I don't care if you're a second-year pro or you a freaking 15-year pro. I try to tell people, look at what happened to Peyton Manning when he got hurt his neck. He had the infusion. He spent from April to dang near July. He was repping like crazy. And this is the sheriff. He was already a Super Bowl champion. He was already an MVP. But he was just telling people how hard it is when you don't play and you don't have the opportunity to kind of keep your routine going. You have to rep like crazy. And so when you got a guy like Brock coming in, he didn't get a chance to work on some of the things that he was deficient in. That don't mean you don't like him. That doesn't mean he didn't play great. But people like to say, well, he mastered the offense. No, he didn't, man. He did a wonderful job in the offense. But there were still areas in which he needs to what? Get better in. That's with anybody, though. That's with Debo. That's with Jerry Rice. That's with Tom Brady. It's football, bro. Every day that you're not getting better, somebody behind you is doing what, Crock?
They getting better.
They getting better. So that's what I'm saying. Like, bro, this happens in sports. And so this is why practice is very much needed. Practice don't tell you everything, but it does say that you can look at certain things and tell, okay, this guy's working on that. This guy's working on that. Unfortunately, right now, people say, like, it ain't fair, but it ain't fair that he didn't get a chance to work on some of those things that that you said, Croc. Oh, he need to work on this. And I saw some things like this last year that he did kind of bad, but they won, so nobody kind of magnified that. We looked over that. You see what I'm saying? But that's what April is for. That's what May is for. That's what June is for. But he's doing that now. You see what I'm saying? Trey and these other quarterbacks, they've been doing this already. So that's the thing about Brock, is that doesn't mean nobody doesn't like Brock. That doesn't mean that Brock wasn't a great player last year for what his role was needed. It just means that, bro, you can't expect a 7th-round draft pick to all of a sudden pick up like he's a 5-year or 7-year veteran and know what to do when he ain't played the whole offseason, man. Like, I don't know I don't know what's so hard to comprehend that. You know what I mean? And dude, this is a time that we all should enjoy, man. I wanted to give y'all this shout out though. They call it the new media. This is a podcast era, but I want to say, man, this has been one of the dopest experiences over the last 3 to 5 years, man, that we have, especially, I'm just gonna talk to the men right quick. We like talk sports, but usually it's probably with some guys we hang out with when we go lift weights or at the bar or something. But to be able to be men, man, and we get to talk our stuff about something that we love. And like, I'm a 49er fan, but I love football. I'm at the house, man, in the country where I grew up at, man. I was playing Tecmo Bowl at 4 years old, bro. I ain't lying to y'all.
Yeah.
I grew up in the house playing Tecmo Bowl, playing fantasy football in Tecmo. Me and my brothers used to play a full season. We would pick one team, and we would pick that team, play throughout the whole season, have one creative player, man. Like, we used to do stuff like that. This is what we did. You see what I'm saying? And so it's so dope to see people have that same type of passion, man, get a chance to meet people, communicate with them via social media, hop on the podcast, tweet them and things of that nature, man. I don't think we appreciate it as much as we need to, but this is a moment in history that the new media is coming through, and we are able to be a lot closer to one another like we never have, man. So I just want to give I want to give y'all the props, man, for putting these things together, giving us this information, using y'all resources to continue to be connected, getting various perceptions, or a variation of different just outlooks and things of that nature, man. This is dope, man. So I just want to give y'all your flowers now while we in it, to say I appreciate it. This is really connecting people all across the world, whether it's from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South, man. And so I just want to salute everybody in the chat, man. Continue to cultivate this thing, man. Continue to be respectful. We can still have some type of contention, but you don't gotta be disrespectful, man. And this is a beautiful thing, a beautiful platform, man. So I just encourage y'all, keep doing your thing. Keep going forward with it, man. This is gonna be a beautiful thing to see in the next 5 years. We will turn around and say, bro, I can't believe we did this. You know what I'm saying?
My God, man. I appreciate it, Ryan.
For sure.
All right. As Rich here says, amen. Yeah, man. He's out there preaching. We got Chris coming back on. He says I wasn't being truthful about something. So he says, Croc, you are not being honest. Let me get back in. So we're going to get to that. We got Fisher Chip says, congrats, Eric. You made the content roster for 2023. What's the content roster? Just let me know what that is. All right. And we got Robert here. Robert says, you think it's possible they put Lance in the Jordan Love position, starting Brock for trade value and get some of those? No. They start Brock because they really like Brock. And he played very well last year. In my opinion. We got Gammon here. And he says, Croc, how many games are enough for you to feel comfortable enough to call the QB the real deal? Now, this might be different than other people, and my timetable for that. I think sometimes there are things that jump out right away where you're definitely intrigued, which I am with Brock Purdy. But for me, it takes like a couple years for me to truly feel like, okay, this guy's the real deal. Because I watch guys and I'm like, oh man, this guy's the real deal. Then the next year it's like, wasn't really It's not really what I was expecting. Okay, maybe next year he'll come like, and then you see that third year and it's like, okay, you start to really feel like, okay, I know exactly who this guy is. But I have learned to definitely not go off of 1 year. So I don't go off of 1 year. And I'm definitely not going to go off of 8 games. Now, with anything, right, when it comes to like evaluating a prospect, we'll take it to college football. When I'm evaluating prospects, it only takes about 3 games or so for me to really try to figure out like who this prospect is, what his strengths are, his weaknesses are, etc. So I can identify a prospect in just a few games. So if we're just going off of Brock Purdy, I can identify some strengths and weaknesses. And then it's just trying to figure out, are you consistent at those things? So in college, it's what's consistent, what's easier to be consistent with, etc. What could be consistent at the next level in the NFL. And then over time, you kind of get to see how that plays out. Example, Jamar Chase. I wasn't as high on Jamar Chase as other people, but not because I didn't think that he was terrific. I just thought one of the things that was kind of a big flaw of his is like, how are you going to work around that in the NFL? He struggled to get off press. So I say half the time, guys got hands on him, at the line of scrimmage more than any other elite prospect receiver that I had ever seen. But he was amazing at the catch point. So my thing was, can Jamar Chase continue to be as amazing at the catch point as he is in college while not getting separation because guys are getting hands in his chest? How would that carry over? And I was curious to see. Well, it looks like it hasn't made a difference. So then, okay, he showed me right away, like, nah, this is not going to be an issue. I can still continue to be that guy. And he is, and he's excellent. He's one of the best receivers in the NFL. As it pertains to Brock Purdy and some of the things, again, I did not watch him in college. So, it was all NFL, me using those 7-8 games or whatever it was to identify, like, what are Brock Purdy's strengths and weaknesses? Like, what is he good at? And I start to see some of the areas where, which is how he plays. So from there is, okay, I see how he plays. I see some strengths. I see some weaknesses. Next year, can those things carry over and continue to be consistent with the way that he's winning? I saw this throw on Twitter, and I think Ryan, who was just on, I think he tagged me in it, and it was Geno Smith, and he made this amazing throw downfield, and he's like, man, what 49 quarterback can make this throw? And when you see a throw like that, to me, like when we start talking about a guy being the real deal, it's more than just being able to function in the offense. It's being able to do certain things that it's like, well, other guys just can't do this. And Geno made this throw, and it was like amazing. Now, he struggles against the 49ers defense for whatever reason. And Geno might suck. We'll see if he can do it again this year. But when you see guys do certain things like that, it's like, that's a little different. Like, that's good any time of the year, any day of the year. Some of the other things I felt like from the 49ers quarterbacks, not just Brock, but also Jimmy Garoppolo as well. It's like, I kind of need this cast a little bit, this supporting cast. I kind of need this. And as long as I got this, like, we're going to be cool. We're going to be solid. Can he be more? And we'll find that out. We'll find that out. All right, here we go. We got Chris coming back on. Chris has a bone to pick with me.
Crock. While you were explaining things, it's this thing that I just feel like you were not adding, because you was like, I don't feel like he really got an opportunity. And you also said that, yeah, I mean, is that a real chance because he started 3.5 games? But it's like you just left out a whole piece to it. Well, yeah, I mean, we understand that he only played 3.5 games, right? But can we kind of go back a little bit? Because in 2021, there was opportunities for him to play after that Arizona game. He had a chance to stack a game. And again, all of this is unfortunate, which you did say. You said it was unfortunate, and I agree with that. It was unfortunate. But in 2021, he most likely would have been able to close out the season starting from that Arizona game. But what happened after that? What happened after the Arizona game? Got hurt.
Yeah, banged up.
Okay. So then he missed his chance to start. And actually, Jimmy went on to play very well. The second half of the season, I think he had 13 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, completed 70% of his passes. The Niners went on to go 8-2 or 7-3, something like that, right? So would you say that's fair, right?
Yes.
Following year, all intentions to get rid of Jimmy. But they also made it clear that we could possibly be bringing him back. They've always said that. They never switched up on that. They end up bringing him back and Jimmy definitely didn't, it didn't look like he was recovering from his, shoulder He didn't take part of training camp, none of that. But then they ended up decided, let's bring him back. Trey Lance got the opportunity to start. And by game 2, second drive, I was there at the game. He got hurt. Boom. That's unfortunate, right?
Very unfortunate.
Jimmy comes in. You know, he does what he does. And we all know, like, Jimmy's playing for another contract somewhere else. He's going to look really good. He gets hurt. Brock Purdy comes in. And this is where I think people are just missing everything. Brock Purdy, the Niners did not know Brock Purdy would come in and play that well and win 2 playoff games, which one, Josh was on your show, and I said it the same. There is no QB competition. Now, I'm not saying it shouldn't have been, but in my head, I knew there was no QB competition. I've been consistent with that for months. Once he won those 2 playoff games, there was no competition. Now,
what had I been saying that whole time?
Well, hold on. I am not hedging my bet. Hold on. I am not hedging
my bet. No, I need you to answer that first. What had I been saying that whole time?
You're saying that Brock should be QB1, but you just felt like it should have been a competition. That's where me and you disagree.
Well, okay, hold on. I felt like there should have been a competition, but I understood why they were all in on Brock. Like, so I understood. Like, I think that's the part that I'm glad that you were able to say that so I can clarify. There was never a time where I said Brock should not be QB1, and that I fully 100% expected him to be starting quarterback against the Pittsburgh Steelers as long as he was there. I definitely want to make sure like everybody understands that. Like, it's not like I was saying, well, you need to give Lance a chance. My thing, do you hear that?
Yeah, static.
There's some static, huh? Yeah. But my thing was more so about, hey man, you know, invest a lot in this guy, and all right, we'll see. But yeah, anyways, I got the stack. It's kind of throwing me off. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my only thing is because it made it seem it just made it seem like you were saying Lance didn't get really like a fair shot. But in my head, it's like, well, when have we seen somebody come in like that and play very well and win 2 playoff games and expect, you know, Lance just to get back? Like, the fair thing is it's unfortunate, not unfair. I just the wording. It's the wording. And the other dude come in here acting like he was listen, bro. Listen. At the end of the day, Trey Lance got the job to start. It was unfortunate that he got hurt, but he got hurt. And as we've seen with Alex, as we've seen with Drew Bledsoe, players can lose their starting job to injuries. It happens. Is it fair? Listen, this is not national. This is not the National Fair League. This is the National Football League. This is what have you done for me lately league. And at the end of the day, nobody known Brock Purdy would have came in and played like that, but he did. And the 49ers would be very dumb to not start the guy. Now, this is what I'm saying. I'm not hedging my bets on 8 games like the Niners did with Jimmy G, right? And that person who said Jimmy didn't take us anywhere. He was along for the ride in those in those several playoff games. He was literally being carried. So Jimmy didn't take us anywhere. But let me just say this. So he plays good in 8 games, right? Now the Niners' goal is to see, okay, was that 8 games a fluke or was that not? So we got to start him the following year because we have to see if this kid is the real deal. But for me, I'm hanging on to Trey Lance. And as history has shown, so everybody in there, I'm not reading comments, but anybody in there who's mad that Trey's not starting, understand this. History has shown that more than one quarterback is going to play during the year. Kyle Shanahan in 6 years only had 1 quarterback start. And in the last 22 years, we only had 1 quarterback follow up being a starter for 2 full years, and that was Kaepernick and Jeff Garcia. But that's all I want to say. It's just the circumstances around everything was different. Purdy played well, and that's the only reason why Trey Lance is not starting for year 2. Okay, it happens, but it was unfortunate. That's all I would say, Crock.
Okay, I hear you. I appreciate you. All right, he got up out of there. Shout out to my guy Chris. I know we'll talk later. I'm pretty sure. Shoes, man. I do want to say, you know what? I appreciate everybody that tuned in for this show. We went much longer, almost 2 hours. I'm telling you, I thought I was gonna be here for 30 minutes, but 2 hours. We hitting that mark right now. I saw there's like less than 200 likes. We've had over a couple thousand people listen to this. So
Like and subscribe this video.
I appreciate all the great dialogue, the back and forth. Shout out to everybody that tuned in, and shout out to my mama. My mama was in here. I love you, Mom. I love you, everybody that's in the chat. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm reporting live from Las Vegas. Till then, I'm out. Peace.